Originally from Bend, Oregon, currently in San Diego, California, and I came to Namiakaya to get clarity and insights about some very big things happening in my life, but then also to heal past traumas that I've had, like many of us from our childhood. But really wanted to make a testimonial for anybody watching this, because for me, this was the most powerful thing in really getting kind of a feel of what this place really is like and what it has to offer. And I know the feeling of either just kind of trying to compare or wondering if this is something right for you. So hopefully if you're out there watching and I can give you a glimpse and try to explain how magical this place is, then I'm happy to do that. So I guess first I should say I'm not an experienced, I guess kind of the cliche term is like psychonaut. You know, I have very little experience with psychedelics. Of like maybe 2 very mild experiences with psilocybin mushrooms before coming here. So I wasn't sure how this would go, but was so intrigued by the possibility of being able to do mass amounts of work in such a condensed time frame that it was worth it for me. So it didn't matter. I was willing to do what it would take if I could get even close to the results that I would be hoping for. So that being said, I did have a fair amount of anxiety coming into this whole experience, and going into the first ceremony I was extremely nervous and tried to convince myself otherwise, and just was, I think kind of just, I had read Tim Leary's book, The Psychedelic Experience, based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which for any of you out there that may have not a lot of experience, that book I think helped me tremendously. It just gave me something to sort of, I don't want to say like hold on to, but it gave me a little bit of kind of a groundwork to try to give myself an idea of what I possibly could be facing. And as everyone knows who comes here, the medicine is going to take you where it's going to take you. But for someone that had so much just kind of nervousness around it, it definitely helped me. So I think that's a good resource for anyone. But yeah, you come in and it's a beautiful ceremony. I think I should say, as others probably have, is that the thing that brought me here, to kind of back up a little bit, is that the real sense of caring that Jill and Casey have, that this is first and foremost and only about coming here to heal, that this is, I think, without a doubt, the safest place you can be to go through this kind of experience. So I thank you guys for doing that. And it's important because this is a serious thing, both in the work that we're trying to do, that we're trying to get to within ourselves, but also with the medicine itself. This is not a toy. This is not for just recreation and fun. This is extremely deep, serious stuff. And so I intuitively knew that coming in, but after having gone through the process, I know that I think is the most important thing, is having a safe place that you can feel or be made as comfortable as possible, and that you are really, really cared for, and that your safety and a safe journey is the most important thing. And so throughout the night, there's several facilitators that are watching over you, and are constantly coming by and checking on you and helping you to the bathroom, or if you need to go outside and take a break, um, anything you need. You're never, outside of the context of just the group that you're in, that you build this incredible lifelong bond with, is just the support from the staff itself. So just from a purely analytical standpoint, the support is just top notch. So thank you guys again for that. So getting back to the actual sessions themselves, because I know I wanted to hear a little bit more about the specifics of going through it. And going in was, I realized as we started to work into the ceremony, which is traditional and beautiful. Quiet down for a second. So much life out in this jungle, it's incredible. But yeah, so much tradition, and it feels very reverent, and which just adds to the authenticity and magic of the experience. So that's a very cool thing. And then after I drank, sat back and just kind of started to wait to see where it would go. So like I said, I had no idea. I'd read a book, but didn't know anything at all. And the stuff that I thought that I came here to work on, was stuff that I think I kind of already intuitively knew in my heart what I wanted to do. And so I think intuitively I already had the answers, right? So part of the thing that I came here, I know after the fact, was that this was part of getting to the point where I could give myself permission to do what I know in my heart to be true, which sounds just kind of silly and like a duh, but that's one of my things that I've just never really been good at. So the stuff during ceremony that came up were other deeper, energetic, emotional things that I would probably, if you had asked me beforehand, I would say like, yeah, there's probably some of that in there, but I had no idea to the extent. And so the kind of the catchphrase that you hear, but is so true, that you don't get what you want necessarily, but you get what you need, is so true. But I always, when I heard that, would always kind of made me wince a little bit, because I think you do get what you want, because there's so much that you get here that you do get what you want. You do get what you want, but you also get what you need. So for me, it turned out that I came to work out just basically 40 years of anxiety in my life. I'm 42. At 2 years old, my mother remarried into a very unstable relationship with a man that she stayed married to for 25 years. So basically grew up my whole childhood. And then the career paths and jobs that I've had after have been a lot of fun, but have been filled with anxiety. So I basically have just had massive amounts of anxiety built up into my life. And so the stuff that needed to come out was all of that. And so what I was seeing and experiencing and feeling was all of that kind of coming out. And it's hard, and it's uncomfortable, and it's ugly, but it feels so good to work through it and purge that out. A purge doesn't necessarily mean vomiting, although when you're here, vomiting feels so good. I found most of our group wanting to vomit, because that just feels, I think, for at least us, I don't know, and a lot of us, that felt like the best purge. But I did a lot of huge yawning, some crying, a little bit of laughter at the end, thank God. But the emotional stuff built up was just tremendous. So the first session was just kind of, I did go pretty deep, and it was, right on the edge of being frightening, just from the standpoint of the psychedelic experience of it all, because I've never gone anywhere near that, and so it was quite overwhelming. But it eased off right at the point of where I was starting to kind of get real worried about it. And working with those shamans, the first and third ceremonies, is where I had my biggest connection. And the female shaman sat in front of me, and I felt, as I was right at that point of just being overwhelmed, is where she pulled me out with one of her ikaros. And it's funny because sometimes the ikaros will take you deep, and in that instance it pulled me out. And then after she moved around and was kind of still working through some stuff, my visions had started to turn fairly dark. And I felt, and I should say, when she was sitting in front of me, a crazy thing that happened was, before I was aware, because I was just deep in the medicine, laid out, and had no idea that she was in front of me, she was drinking the agua de Florida, and I could taste it. Like, I could physically taste when she would sip it and spit it out. And a lot of people love it. I don't prefer it, and so that's actually what helped me purge and pulled me up out of it. So anyway, when she got back around to her little spot, and I felt these dark visions coming in, I felt her take these dark emotions, and I could hear her experiencing them for me, almost. It was like she was taking these and experiencing them for me because I wasn't ready to go there yet. And so that was a really profound thing. That basically the message I got out of that, for me personally, and this is hard because this is just, my own interpretation of my experience, and everybody's experience is different, but it was that my negative thoughts and anxieties were hurting other people. And I won't go into the personal details of how that's relevant, but it is extremely spot on, gives me goosebumps, relevant in my life. The second ceremony, it was a different set of shamans, and but more of the same in terms of starting out, and there was a lot of anxiety built up. Again, it was just what needed to come out, and purging that, yawning that, getting that out, and experiencing these uncomfortable feelings and emotions, and again, having some very relevant personal visions about me and my relationship with my wife, and just incredible stuff that, even though it's so difficult in the moment, it's really just, it's hard to, you can't articulate how fantastic and just incredible, really, is the word I'll say. Third ceremony was the hardest night of my life. For the first time in my life, and I don't want to scare anybody, but I think it's important to articulate how challenging these challenging sessions can be. I actually feared physically for my life. Like, my heavy visions and feelings and anxiety had just gone down to the point where I felt like I was laying with death, and that I eventually became death. And this is why it's so important to be supported, because when it got really hard and really dark, I couldn't even, because there's a signal that we learn to give to the facilitator so they can come over and help us, and I wasn't even able to think. I was just kind of scrambling, and Daisy was just happened to walk by because she was fanning us all because it was a hot night, and I just grabbed her, and I said, just please sit with me. And she sat with me, and I put my head on her lap, and I just needed to hold somebody's hand, because I felt that I was just going to slip into the oblivion if I didn't. And I held her as long as I could, and then I kind of, the wave, because the medicine comes in waves, and it kind of eased off a little bit, and so I let her go. And then the next one, they were so close, and I was so far down there that it almost didn't feel like waves. It was just, the whole time, it was really, 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 really difficult. And so I would knock, and another facilitator would come over and hold me. I basically would be curled up on my side on their lap. They would sit, cross-legged and holding my hand. as long as I could. And I would say, don't leave. You guys don't leave me here. I can't do this. And they were just like, you can't. Just breathe through it. And I went through that with every facilitator till it finally kind of let me go. And I guess was, the ego death or whatever experience. And it was literally the most challenging night of my life, without a doubt. And I don't say that lightly. Like many of us, we all have hard times, but I've had some extremely hard times, so that is not a light statement. But you come out of it, and you come through it, and you realize that you aren't going to die physically, and that if you do have an experience like that, that it's a massive release and a rebirth of sorts of yourself. And I realize, it gives me goosebumps, that that's the type of stuff that if you want to be able to do this kind of work without having to go to therapy for the rest of your life, to even identify it, because I don't even know if I would have, in a traditional therapeutic setting, I don't even know how long it would have taken me to realize that was there, much less yank it out. And yet I got it in 3 nights. By the 3rd night, this had happened. And so that was just really an otherworldly experience. The 4th ceremony, I was coming into it unsure because the 3rd one was so hard. And I told myself in that 3rd ceremony, I can't do this again. I can't do this again. There's no way I'm doing that again. But after having a day off and just kind of sitting with it, you realize that it's okay, and that was stuff that you just needed to work through, and that you've come so far, and that you will be given another lesson that who knows, and talking with you, Jill, about what are the chances of having back-to-back nights like that. You had said it's pretty low, so it'll hopefully be a little more pleasant. And I had asked for a lower dose of the medicine just because it was so hard, and I really I could not do that again. So at least not back-to-back nights. It just would have broken me. So the 4th night the 4th ceremony coming in, I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I had come so far, and I didn't want to kind of back out on this last minute. I knew that if I didn't do that last ceremony, good, bad, or whatever it was, that if I had gone home, I knew that I would have had a regret of what did I leave on the table? What could I have gotten more from Madre, from the medicine that could help me in my life? And so I said, okay, we'll man up and let's go in there and just see what comes. And I had a fantastic massage and session with Daisy, so that put me in a great space. Me and another retreat member were sitting out in the hammocks after lunch, and it's still fairly dry where we're at right now, and so there hasn't been a lot of rain, and there was this incredible thunderstorm that came over, and lightning, thunder around, and it just started raining. And I really wanted that because I love coming to the tropics, and I love getting the rain while I'm in the tropics. And so while me and Mitch were laying in the hammocks, everybody kind of was going inside, and I just wanted to sit there and lay there. And so me and Mitch just laid in the hammocks and through that whole rainstorm, and it was pretty incredible. It felt like a pretty big gift, and just kind of put me into a further better state going into it. And then we happened to have one of the other members in our group that's a master Reiki healer, and she had offered to give me a master attunement because of how challenging my 3rd session was. And so I had that going into the 3rd session. And so there was all this, just as so much happens leading up, and when you're thinking about doing this, you'll feel that there's so many pieces that just keep falling into place, and the serendipitous of the nature of all of it is just too much to ignore. And so that was kind of I had that. Maybe I needed that for the confidence to go into that 4th session, but I felt ready, and so I went in. started out the session as usual, where as the previous three, not as usual for me, that it was they had all started with difficult feelings and anxieties were starting to come up again, and the vision started to flash, and which by the way, if you do like that type of experience, it's I don't know how to explain it. It's just incredible. But for me, what I realized is that I'm not a huge fan of that, and that in and of itself was part of the anxiety that I was feeling from all this stuff. And so it started to, as the medicine started to sink in, I started to get these feelings of anxiety again. And I don't know if it was necessarily because of the visions per se. I think it was just more, I just had more anxiety in my body that just still needed to calm out because I was yawning it through. And I just told myself, I was like, okay, well, I guess we just, I was thinking to myself, like, oh man, not again. But at the same time, I just accepted that that's what needed to happen. Like, I just still had that much anxiety built up and challenging emotions inside of me that I needed to work that out. And I was like, okay, then that's what we're going to do. But then at some point I had the idea that, I don't have to struggle through this. I don't have to suffer through this. Like, I think from stuff in my past, I felt like maybe I deserved the challenges that came at me for whatever reason, justified it that, like, oh, this is what I need to learn and experience. But I just realized that maybe I don't have to. And so I just tried to change my mind. And one of the other retreat members in one of the previous sessions in integration, which integration is where we share after the fact and is the most, in my opinion, is on the conscious side of it, the most beneficial part of the whole retreat. And one of the other members had shared how our group had kind of a bit of a lot of kind of giggling that would kind of work its way around the room a little bit. And he had said that he was having a challenging, I think, second or third session, and he just tried to start laughing a little bit with the rest of that kind of energy flowing around, and that it was a little bit forced and contrived at first, but eventually it kind of kicked in, and the laughter eventually was genuine and sincere, and it helped him dissolve the hard feelings and emotions that he was dealing with during that session. And so I remember that, and I think, okay, well, let me try it because I knew it was coming. The little giggles were coming. And as they started to bubble up, even though it hurt, because I had this, like, in my stomach, it just, it kind of felt like I getting punched in the stomach. Even though I was in a bit of pain and discomfort, I decided, I was like, well, just try to laugh with it a little bit. And it was a little bit forced at first, but then it became less, and then it became genuine. And it changed kind of my mind frame. And as soon as I got to that place where the laughter was genuine, the anxiety went away. And the pain in my stomach started to dissolve. And so from the third session where I had basically died, the ego death experience, the main message I got was that love is the answer. And which is a common theme that a lot of people will get when they come to these retreats and they have really hard times and for whatever reason, but love was the answer. And then in this fourth one, when I started to feel that liberating power of laughter, I got the message that laughter is the key. And so I just had this, like, it changed the whole vibe of my experience. All of a sudden, I had gone from wanting it to just be over, because I've gone through these 3 hard ones, I've got my money's worth, let's just survive this night, and we'll be good. To now enjoying the experience, where I was laughing with everyone, and at everyone, and not in a demeaning kind of a way, but I found it hysterical, and everybody around me just tripping out, and was so much fun that it changed it to, I didn't want it to end. I wanted it to keep going. Thank you, birdies. And I wanted it to I wanted the night to keep going, because I was laughing and giggling, and there was things happening in the room where I had laughed harder than I have laughed in years. And it did feel so good. And it gave me tools, all of this. And now I can see where patterns that I have and ways of thinking that I have that have created anxiety in my life. I know not to do those, but I also have tools like something as simple as laughter and love to get rid of those and to heal myself. So yeah, incredible experience. I think anyone who's serious enough to be watching these videos is contemplating doing this, that it's the best gift that you could give yourself to come down here. I don't think you will find a better center in terms of the care, compassion, and safety of the environment that you're in to go through this kind of experience. So I really thank you guys again for doing this kind of work and allowing us to come in and have such powerful transformative experience. Thank you very much, and get down here, you won't regret it.